Sleep well, my dear. Written by Just Thinking Drabbles. Read by Rashi. Ferdy wakes up to the sunlight beaming through the crack in their curtains and stretches out his arms like a cat before turning to his side. A smile lights his face at seeing Hubert there, a rare occurrence since he typically would be trying to work during these early morning hours. He looked so peaceful and content as he rested, the usual crease in his brow all but vanished, and his face softening sweetly. Beautiful man. Ferdinand sighed dreamily and brought the covers up to his face a bit. Despite being married for almost 4 years now, he never got tired of waking up beside his husband. He loved feeling the warmth of his body next to his, and running his fingers through Hubert's hair as he slept. And so he did just that, reaching for the soft strands and scratching at his scalp gently. A pleased, sleepy hum escaped his lips, and Ferdinand chuckled. This man was so perfectly imperfect, and he loved him so much for it. Overcome by the amount of love he felt for this man, he leaned over and placed a gentle kiss to his forehead, then his nose, cheeks, and finally lips. Still, Hubert didn't stir. He didn't expect him to, seeing as he more than likely worked late again. But here he was, lying in their bed, sound asleep. It put Ferdinand's mind at ease, and he hoped that perhaps some of his scoldings for Hubert to take care of himself had been the reason for his decision, but he could not be sure. He sat up slowly, allowing the aches in his muscles to fall away for a moment before properly getting out of bed and getting dressed. He often felt like passing ships in the night with his husband, rising just as he was falling asleep, and vice versa. But he didn't mind so much. Getting to see Hubert finally resting, as he brushed through his unruly strands of amber hair, was a pleasing sight, and he welcomed it far more than the empty bed he normally woke up to. He finished getting ready for the day as quickly as possible, so he could be ready for his meeting soon, and had some tea and coffee set up as he did. The coffee might be cold by the time Hubert woke, but the man never minded warming it up with a bit of fire magic, and Ferdinand wanted to be sure he had something to wake up to. Yet the coffee did not arrive before Hubert awoke. Once Ferdinand was ready for the day, he walked into their shared bedroom to find Hubert lying in bed, his eyes fixed on him, a very tired expression on his face. "Hello there, Moonlight," he said as he sat on the edge of the bed and brushed Hubert's fringe from his face. Hubert mumbled, still half awake. "I did not expect you to wake for some time. How did you sleep?" "It was far too brief to be considered sleep, though I must admit that waking up to the sight of you makes this wretched attempt worth something." Ferdinand chuckled and nudged him playfully with his knee. "You flatter me too much, my dear." Hubert smirked and turned his head, grabbing onto his husband's wrist and kissing it softly. He followed it with a trail of kisses up his arm as he slowly sat up, and as he placed a kiss to Ferdinand's shoulder, he looked up through his lidded eyes to find a faint blush on his cheeks. Incandescent man, the sun was nothing compared to his warmth and light. "You need to rest more, darling. There is still time before you need to be up. I know, I checked your schedule, and I will not hear of you passing out in a hallway again simply because you refuse to sleep." "That was one time," rebutted Hubert, as if it were an excuse. "One time this week. In total you have done so countless times." He leaned his head against Hubert's and pressed a tender kiss to his lips. His husband fell against him easily, still tired from his lack of sleep and wanting more than anything to be near him. But Ferdinand pulled away too soon, leaving him to chase after him, and, when he found himself merely catching air, he fell against his shoulder and grumbled something incoherent. "Please, my love, rest. You more than any of us deserve it." "Stay with me," Hubert pleaded, not looking up from his place against Ferdinand's shoulder. "I cannot, darling. I have a meeting this morning." There came another sound of protest from Hubert at this, and he laughed once again as he rubbed soothing circles into his back. "I'm sorry to disappoint you, though perhaps if you went to bed earlier, you might be able to spend more time in bed with me." He received a glare from Hubert at this, though it had no venom, especially with the tired drooping of his eyes, which couldn't seem to stay open. Anyone who ever thought this man was frightening, well, they were right, but they knew not how soft and loving he could be too, and Ferdinand loved every side of him. Tell you what, if you get a few more hours of rest and retire at a decent time from your work, then perhaps I can arrange my schedule so that we can spend a few extra hours lounging in bed tomorrow. What do you say?" "Promise?" "Promise," he replied, nodding. "Fine." Hubert sighed reluctantly. Ferdinand beamed brightly at him, though it made a soothing peace fill his chest. "Wonderful," he said, and kissed Hubert on the top of his head before standing up, causing the man to lose his balance and almost fall face first into the mattress. "See you later tonight." And with that, Ferdinand was gone. Hubert shook his head and smiled fondly to himself at his darling husband before falling back against the pillows. He fell asleep to the thought of being entangled in wavy amber tresses and the feeling of soft, doting kisses against his face.